Religion is a RTS game that on first sight seems to conjure the spirit of Command and Conquers or Red Alerts of old, depending on your preferences, and as far as the overall look and feel goes, even though mechanically it borrows a bit from Warcraft 3. However, start playing it and you'll see that what it brings to the table makes Religion its own thing. But is it enough to deem it worthy of adding to your library? Let's take a look together. If this is the first time on my channel, welcome, I'm Steven Nonsense, geek culture analyst, real-time extraordinaire. I bring you RPG, strategy and city builder reviews. Please don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy what follows. If you're already a subscriber, welcome back and remember to click that bell button, it really helps a lot. Set in the most cyberpunkiest of dystopic futures, Religion tries to have a very interesting discussion in an albeit superficial way, under the guise of a real-time strategy game. Its fundamental theme taking the idea of technology as religion to its logical conclusion, one in which technology is literally religion. Religion and religion. See what I did there? The legion part comes in a bit later on. I'll get to it, but simply had to give them props for that wonderful wordplay. You play from the perspective of a futuristic prophet, the prophet of a religion of your own making, since the game allows you to customize your particular faith's belief system via dogmas. Rest assured, the devs were smart enough to steer way clear of any and all similarities to anything that could be deemed controversial or particularly blasphemous in the real world. These future religions tend to focus a lot on the relationship between humans and technology, which kinda makes sense considering the theme. Your main goal throughout the game is to spread your religion and physically fight the mind-controlling corporations and other rival cults. Because you see, you are not the only prophet running around the neon-drenched streets. Oh no. Much like the situation 2000 years ago, there are several belief systems vying for mainstreamhood, each of them having the one true prophet as their spearhead. As opposed to most other RTSs, in which your units are generated from production buildings, Religion keeps with its theme and has you converting civilians on the street. Your units are literally all around you, but you have to convert them to your religion first, and then you'll be able to further transform them into various units. Resource gathering is kept relatively simple. There are only 3 resources. One of them is the people on the street, which are constantly generated by the game, so you'll always have fodder for your flock. The other 2 are the resources that you'll have to create special units in order to gather, and they'll need specific buildings in order to gather said resources from, these being cryptos and faith. And the way in which you do this is to simply generate hackers and worshippers and assign them to their respective buildings. This is where the game seems to borrow a little bit from the undead faction from Warcraft 3, with your units surrounding their buildings in order for them to do their job. As you explore each map, you'll find different points of interest in buildings which can be hacked to be switched to your area of influence. The points of interest will increase your follower cap, while the other various buildings will offer you access to purchasing various upgrades for your units. Combat is largely based on swarming and smashing a large mass or legion of your followers against that of your enemies. This is where the legion in Religion comes into play. You have the entire roster of typical units, melee, ranged, healers, stealthy, as well as some theme-specific ones such as the hackers I mentioned earlier and preachers, whose job is to convert people to your belief system. When controlling the prophet, you have access to an AoE conversion skill, but that takes time to recharge and you'll want to use the prophet to sometimes fight, so preachers are very important. Normally, proper tactical combat would be difficult, nigh impossible to engage in due to the large number of combatants on screen and the short amount of time you have at your disposal to make use of their special abilities before they die. However, the devs thought about it and implemented a slow-mo feature which slows down time tremendously, allowing you to activate unit abilities and moving them around if required. It's a cool addition and makes combat considerably more manageable. One problem with the combat is that besides the prophet, you have some other story critical named units with which you'll interact throughout the missions, and if any of them die, it's an instant loss. It's a bit of a bummer because the prophet can reincarnate and whatnot, but these secondary fuckers, not so much, so that's something to keep in mind. When the game says one of them is under attack, slow it down and get them out of harm's way. Other than that, having a larger mixed fighting force with healer backing than your opponent will usually win the battle. But I did find the missions and fighting in general to be rather tedious because of these large numbers. If you lose them, it can take a bit of time to build them back up once you have used up your stored followers, and making new ones takes time. Maybe I just didn't get the combat perfectly down because I'm more used to StarCraft and have never really been that much into neither CNC nor Red Alert. Other things that should be mentioned are the loading screens and the illustrated art in general. The illustrations are evocative, otherworldly, and some of them rather disturbing. While the music is pretty solid as well, generally dark and low, and I don't want to throw around the word atmospheric willy-nilly, but it is. The blend of electronic low beats and droning chants fit the setting perfectly. In conclusion, Religion is a great example of some really interesting ideas that you don't get to fully appreciate due to design decisions. Or at least I didn't. The story seemed interesting, but the writing and the voice acting were both kinda iffy. However, the idea of converting people on the streets into your units works great, both from a thematic point of view as well as a mechanical one. I think I would have liked the game better if it would have chosen to go with a more limited number of units and going heavier on some RPG elements, in the vein of Warcraft 3, but that wouldn't have gelled with the whole Legion aspect. Regardless of this, I think the game is pretty cool and could be of interest if you're looking for a new RTS experience. I'm curious to know if any of you have heard of Religion until now, and also if you're looking forward to some new RTSs I haven't heard about yet. Let me know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Steven Nonsense, and see you next time.